Ambassadors of peace to Cape Town, the mother city, a place of divine feminine energy at the very tip of Africa, the continent that gave birth to humanity. We are standing at the edge of a new age, a time of transition and rebirth. It's a time when humanity can come together to co-create a new vision for our collective future, and a time when we can reflect on what needs to be done to achieve that vision. But to take the first step into our brave new world, we must acknowledge, recognize, and heal our individual and collective wounds. These wounds can be healed by the universal power of the divine feminine, but healing can only take place when we realign the scales of man's inherent goodness. We must use our lion strength to find another way of living our lives, to guide every man and every boy into loving, respecting, and supporting every woman and every girl. Women everywhere are attacked and assaulted and invaded every hour of every day. Their dignity is destroyed, their spirit is weakened, their bodies are irreparably damaged. They die. We see it every day. We've become inured to the stories we see on prime-time television, in global news broadcasts, in Hollywood blockbusters, and in daily newspapers. In response, we change the channel, turn the page, or switch off completely. And yet in a bar, or in a Facebook post, or on a tweet, or across the dinner table, in the corridor, or at the water cooler, one man's joke becomes another's action. Rape starts with a single thought that turns into action and ends in a life sentence of pain and recurring nightmares. It's easy to gloss over the stories we see and hear every day. In the busyness of life, it's easy to shield ourselves from the reality of the traumatic moments in which women are destroyed by the men who themselves have lost touch with their humanity. But in this loss of humanity, there is hope. Hope that the hunter will find his sacred power and glorious strength in the moment of forgiveness. Hope that the woman whose essence is broken will find her balance, her peace, and her healing.
In many countries, in the midst of poverty, inequality, and the struggle to survive, our pure essence of being human is diminished on a daily basis. We forget about the beauty of love and truth, the nourishment of a mother's care, and the delicacy of her feminine touch. We lose sight of what it means to be people of honor and dignity, loving power and guiding strength. And when we forget, we struggle, we become angry, we fight. Sometimes rape is a common response to an overwhelming sense of disempowerment, both here in South Africa and in many countries. Like a cornered animal, a man might lash out in anger, frustration, and revenge. Women are raped, assaulted, and attacked all too often. Their nurturing strength is destroyed with every raised hand, every torn dress, and every tear shed in anguish.
Let us listen to the story of Michaela Driscoll, a committed HIV and healthcare professional who found, within that broken essence, the will to forgive, even while rage and violation, darkness and fear permeated her being. She found forgiveness, compassion, and the recognition of the sacred beings who invaded her body.
About 3 weeks ago, I went through and experienced a serious trauma. I wish to share these words to bring light and healing to this huge wound of rape. It feels important to shine a light on this issue and feels like part of the purpose of it happening to me at this powerful time for our planet. I was staying in a remote and beautiful location in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. I was just falling asleep. There was a loud bang on the door. I jumped, and the next thing I knew, the locked door was broken down and there were 4 men carrying big torches and long curved knives, shining light into my face, so I couldn't really see anything. I was shocked and dazed. Briefly, after stealing my things, they proceeded to rape me in turn. To suffice to say, it was hard and awful, but they almost weren't really able to do it. I think I was out of my body, as I didn't really feel anything. During the experience, I was held very strongly in the light. I remember thinking, knowing, these men are sacred beings. I see them. They don't know what they're doing. I felt myself as a sacred being, and that presence and essence was with me very strongly throughout. I sensed the presence of Archangel Michael. I don't know how long they were with me. It seemed long, but it may not have been. 2 of them left, and then the others were looking for valuables, and then there was only 1 left. I said to him, I come from England. I really don't have anything. I came to your country to help your people. I work for a charity to help people with HIV, which is all true. He then looked at me in the eyes and said, what you say makes me feel very sorry for what I have done. I can never undo this. I feel terrible. I looked at him. He said, we are so desperate. I said, it's worse for you than it is for me. You can't undo this terrible thing. But from now on, you can do goodness and make goodness. He then said to me, you will never forgive me. And I said, I do now. I forgive you now. He looked at me and I felt he received my words. I said, I am not afraid. He looked surprised. Then I said, I am afraid, but I am okay. I think what I meant, but couldn't put into words at the time, was that because I know myself deeply and know myself as a sacred being, their violation could not really violate me. I saw their essence. I saw through their actions and saw their timelines, their lives before me. I wondered about their mothers, their pains, their joys. What would make them so desperate and wounded to do this? Wonder about them being babies. I saw their humanity and I felt mine. I'm now in my own personal process of healing. It took more than 10 days before I could even cry. I know there is much to do to allow the healing process. I need to allow my body to shake, to release, to make sound. I need space and time. Some of the time I feel a deep bone sadness, like all the joy sucked out of me. Gandhi said, poverty is the worst form of violence. I wonder how there can be so much violence in this culture, our world. In the townships here, most, if not every woman I have ever spoken to has been raped. Now people speak about making the men who violated me pay. I think they should face the consequences of their actions, but wonder if this punitive lock-away attitude doesn't further fuel and push this deep and terrible wound underground. How can the conversations be opened up? We are all at so many different stages of wisdom and evolution, both collectively and individually. If there is an environment that creates and condones rape, don't we need to shine more light on this most painful of subjects and own this darkness? I weep for this wound in Africa, the world, this violation of woman, the divine feminine, that is also a violation of men and all humanity, calling back deeply the sacred masculine and all the absent fathers. I wish for restorative justice where people learn and communicate from their hearts and open up their lives. That from this bad, sad thing we add goodness and wisdom and not more pain and suffering. Human beings are not disposable. As a woman connecting with all the women of the world who have been raped, connecting with all the men who have raped, calling all men and women, I call us into our hearts, into our wounds, into our genitals, into our whole bodies, activating love and light, to truly activate the divine feminine and sacred masculine for the deepest of healing and light now. Activating our I am presence, our consciousness as sacred beings, permeating every cell of our bodies. As a woman, mother, lover, wise woman, I say, violence creates more violence. Enough, no more. We are one. We are sacred beings, collectively becoming conscious of this. We are interconnected despite our diversity, our differences. Our common humanity holds us in love, in infinite love. Our shame and secrecy of this wound, this hidden wound, keeps it in place, keeps part of us hard that need to soften, care and release and heal. I activate this love, this light, connecting with the huge grace of every one of all of you through all time and space. Thank you.
The subject of rape is one of the last taboos on the planet. In response to the horrific, fatal rape and attack of a young student in Delhi in December 2012, millions of people have been mobilized, taken to the streets in unprecedented grassroots activism. These protests have started a ripple that will eventually turn the tide of the global rape epidemic and change patriarchal systems everywhere. We've already started to see the results. Under pressure from rising protests, the Indian government has implemented immediate reforms, and many thousands of people are petitioning for change. As we shift into a new age, we understand that we are coming from an old reality of pain, greed, confusion, and anger. We must draw inspiration from Michaela and brave women like her, lion-hearted heroines from all over the world who have walked through the veil of their tears into the light of joy, compassion, forgiveness, and understanding. We must all pray for their healing in the embrace of a mother's arms and the blessing of the divine goddess. We must also pray for the perpetrators, willing them, asking them to open their minds and their hearts so that they can understand the true nature of their own power. Imagine a world where women and men can walk together in love and without fear, together, moving from violence to safety and restoring the sacred Ubuntu touch in this life and all others beyond. Now that you've heard Michaela's story, know that there are many women like her. In their name, and in the name of humanity, join the global movement, rise up against men who rape, repair broken communities, and reclaim the sacred femininity of our collective nurturing spirit.
Now, more than ever, the world needs feminine and masculine heart power to restore the scales and to find the balance of Ubuntu. Now is the time to bring the essence of humanity, that Ubuntu spirit, back into our homes, our communities, and our nations. I urge you all to pray with us so that all people can once again find what is good, true, and beautiful in themselves and how they treat their fellow human beings. I ask you to pray that men and women and all of God's creatures of the earth will live in dignity. Today, as the world shifts into a new, blessed age, we can all find the true essence of who we are and better understand how we fit into the whole of humanity. God bless you.
Michaela Driscoll is one of 60,000 women raped in South Africa every year. Despite the humiliation, degradation, and violence of the crime, Michaela stands firm in her belief that sending the 4 men who raped her to jail is not the answer. If we continue to do the same things, we will continue to get the same results. The reality is that if the crime is reported at all, many accused of rape are not convicted. If they are convicted and sent to jail, the enormous numbers of sexual crimes shows that punitive justice is not achieving the change in behavior that we need. So it's through women like Michaela, but also through you and me and through our own innately good humanity, we must work together to find a better way to address these issues. Our government, perhaps daunted by the extent of the challenge and handicapped by a culture of entitlement, is out of ideas. So it's up to us, the people who care, who live normal lives and who live and work in our communities. It is up to us to be the change. Let's all visualize a new world and act to make that vision our new reality.